Hey everyone, we got the Royal Puppeteer Aphmau banner yesterday, and today it's time to take a look at her kid. What can she do? How does she compare to different or the other tanks that we have? So let's dive right in, shall we? So Aphmau, I'm gonna just call her Aphmau from now on, because Royal Puppeteer Aphmau is just a little bit too much to handle. Alright, she's a base. In base form, she's a debuffer, and in her Brave Shift, she's a physical tank. But honestly, both forms, you can use her as a tank, but you need to Brave Shift first, do her tanking stuff, and then you can do stuff in the base form. So yeah, it's a little bit of both, but yeah, she's mainly a tank. Alright, so this skill set of Aphmau, it's pretty bare bones, as you can see, but I like this. Personally, I'm a fan of these 4 active ability types of kits. They're concise, they're right to the point, you know what you're getting yourself into. So for example, we do have a perfect dispel on her Groundus, 2 uses per battle, but it's still fine. We have a full dispel, which may not be the smartest option always, but sometimes you do want that full dispel on knockout, but the important part is her 135% Earth in peril. Now, some former units like Puppeteer have it on their LB, if I'm not totally mistaken, or some Grandis. Aphmau just has it on a regular skill, which is pretty nice. She also has a 83% full break, which also imperils by Earth by 120%, but that's not really an issue here. It is cool that it's a break, but the 83%, it's a little bit lower side of things, but her LB is 85 all breaks to all enemies, if I'm not totally mistaken. Or is it? It is. So yeah, passives, they're okay. I mean, she has human killer and all. 200% insect killer, which is probably the best thing about this kit, but yeah, you're probably not going to use her for DPS anyway. But she is not bad as a tank of DPS, let's put it that way. But we'll get to that. Here's the aforementioned base limit burst with 80% all breaks to all enemies, and conveniently it also removes all buffs from all enemies, which is another source of perfect dispel, and this one is permanent unless you cannot cast LB every second or third turn, but usually you don't really need that many perfect dispels in a row. But it's always nice to have a perfect dispel on demand, so to speak. Yeah, it also deals 80x defense scaling damage. Now keep in mind the damage formula, the newer one, which has been in place for quite some time now, but it's still called a new damage formula. It takes attack into account. It's a log. The attack is taken into account of the formula in a log manner, so the attack won't always be the highest, but it still affects the damage. And log 0 is an error, unless you don't know that. So yeah, log of something is still better than log of 0. Anyway, yeah, it's a decent LB. Especially if you can get her to somewhat decent attack, which is going to be hard because her base attack is low at, I believe, 130-ish. So yeah, but still, it's a good limit burst nonetheless. Brave Shift abilities, here's all the tanking stuff. She's got a 65 to 80 cover mitigation, which is around 72%, 72.5% on average mitigation. She's got permanent quote-unquote 75% general mitigation, which is poor, and she's got a 50% physical damage mitigation, 4 turns on a 4-turn cooldown, so she will permanently have 75% general mitigation, 50% physical mitigation, and yeah, well, I mean, at worst she's gonna have 65% cover mitigation, but all in all, and this is pretty good on average. She will take very little damage. Also, pretty cool is the 135 fire imperil, which also imbues her with fire. And what I also like is that she also mitigates magic damage taken. It's only 30%, but it's nice to have, I guess. Yeah, other than that, passives, nothing too fancy. still much of the same. And one thing I'd like to mention, and this applies to the base form, I forgot about this. The Thoughts of Companions, a physical. It is an autocast at the start of the battle, and this one makes Aphmau preemptively cover. Now, if you take a step back, we've also got the Authority of the Courageous, which is a 70% break. If I'm not mistaken, it should be 70% break to all enemies at the start of the battle. So it's a preemptive break too, which is pretty cool, but you need to start in base for the break, or if you start in Brave Shift, you will have the preemptive physical cover, which is pretty sweet. I like it. It's a neat touch to a kit. And her limit burst, much of the same, honestly. It's only Ice Wind resistance in peril at 100, which is kind of but this is more or less for more mitigation towards Machinas. 75% is quite a lot, honestly. So yeah, she's super good when tanking mechanical bosses, but there are none, so to speak. For the moment, at least. There is the Iron Giant, but that's such an easy trial, you won't need her for that specifically. A 7-star tank can tank this. So yeah, let's move on to the Trustmaster and Super Trustmaster. Her Trustmaster is just a basic materia, 50% true single wield defense, meaning you can wear a shield, you don't have to. It applies to both, which is pretty good, pretty good. Now, since this materia is not tied to a weapon type, it makes it widely available, which many tanks will love. Probably all of them other than Branth. But for Aphmau, I feel like a 100% with the fist restriction would have been a little bit better, but then again, reaching 400% true or 400% equipment defense is pretty easy on Aphmau anyway. So yeah, it's still a very, very good material for tanks in general. The fist weapon, her Super Trustmaster, it gained 170 attack, which is why I mentioned this earlier. Having a log of 170 in the equation for attack makes a lot of difference. And it also has 180 attack, which makes this a very, very strong defense at fist. It's better than Snow's for pure defense tanking, but Snow's has spirit on his one, so that is okay too. It just does things differently. But the kicker here is the 50% equipment through single wield defense, which I feel like is the best part of it, because it makes gearing tanks even easier. So it is a great STMR, especially for Snow and Aphmau, to be honest. Alright, the vision card, it is very much like for like with Gbrand's, at least the level 1 to 10 base stats, they are identical to Gbrand's card, but the passives, they are obviously different. You gain 40% defense when Aphmau, or the wearer of this card, is wearing fists, meaning probably just Aphmau or Snow. And the level 10 passive, it has no restriction. This is not an arrow. It actually has no restrictions, which I like. And it's another 50% defense through single wield. So yeah, good stats in general. Not having any restrictions makes this very, very good for all tanks other than Gbrandth. Always this asterisk. But yeah, great card. I like it. And cool animation too. So let's get down to the most interesting part, maybe the comparison of Near Vision tanks. I'm leaving out Near Vision Awakened tanks here. Gladio, he is very good, don't get me wrong, but I feel like this should be a Near Vision only comparison. If this was a Near Vision Awakened tank, yeah, I'd probably include all of them, but this is just Near Vision tanks. So this is the gear. Now this is gearing that is not meant to be used in real life or real world applications. As you can see, I'm using very little HP stuff, as you can see. That's not gonna apply here, or very little resistances too, which does not apply to real trials at all. It's just max defense to check how much damage can these guys and girls take. Alright, so let's check out a brief comparison here regarding general mitigation, etc. You've seen this before on my Heey review, probably, if you've watched that. I just added Aphmau's stuff here. So yeah, I'm not gonna go through this, honestly. I've done this before on the Heey one. But yeah, it's, as you can see, all these tanks, and the winner slide probably is telling the whole truth here. It is very, very much dependent on what type of content you're looking for, right? That is the huge kicker here, because there's no clear winner in all of this. Here's a few more comparisons with buffs, such as stats and killers, resistances. Heey does look very good on all of this, but you will see that there's a caveat to everything, and Heey's is that his damage taken is quite high, as you will see in a few seconds. So yeah, and I also included, just to make Aphmau stand out a little bit, in perils and breaks, because that's where she excels the most. Now Heey does have some very neat imperils, 115 to all or 130 to earth. That is good. And he also has 70% all breaks, which is pretty sweet. But Aphmau still takes the win home with a 135 imperils and the 122. Almost all of them. The only ones missing are light and dark. But yeah. And her breaks are still superior to the other tanks as well. So let's check out the damage taken, and I'm seeing that this slide is not done well, so let me fix this. I'll be right back. Alright, we are back. Sorry for that. I did not test whether this table will fit onto the slide, but it does now. So here is the damage taken calculation. Now this looks very complicated, but it's actually not. It's just a lot of text, as you can see, but I made the most important parts bold, so you can see which tank takes how much damage if a 10 million attack reaches them or gets to them. As you can see, Heey takes the most damage. Now, surprisingly, maybe for some, I don't know, Aphmau holds up very well. She's number 2 in terms of damage taken. Snow is still, due to the 90% general mitigation, he will always stay on top of everything unless there's another tank who just does it better than him, which I don't think is going to happen very soon or at all even. But yeah, Aphmau still does very, very well in this comparison. A little bit better than Gebranth even, which I found surprising. But keep in mind, Aphmau has no emergency buttons. Gebranth has one, Heey has one, the 90% mitigation that is in this case. And this will make them a little bit more tankier than Aphmau for a turn or more, one turn or more turns, even in the case of Heey. So there's always that to keep in mind. And even though this metric says that Heey is the worst, for at least 5 turns, as long as his Grandis is up at least, he is very, very good. But Heey, the thing I don't like about Heey is you are forced to guard with him after his Grandis is down. And if you're guarding with him, you cannot use his gimmicks at all. You cannot use his cool resistance buffs, the imperils. You cannot use his damage at all to chip in. You cannot use him as a chainer, and if you have to guard every turn with Heey, you might as well just use Snow, because Snow can guard too, and he's just there, he's just face tanking stuff, and he's going to take less damage anyway than him. And another thing is, I don't measure tanks by effective health. I've explained this a lot already. I don't think effective health is a good metric at all. You may be, your opinion may vary very much so from mine. It's fine. If you want to do the effective health comparison, you will get to a little bit different results. Heey is going to come out on top. But as we've all seen and know by now, that effective health does not model real trials effectively. And that is the only reason why I'm not taking effective health into account. Alright, so yeah, Aphmau looking pretty good. Even though Snow is the winner in all of these, but yeah. So how does she fare in the meta? She is the most versatile tank with her preemptive 70 full break or the preemptive cover. Now Heey does have a preemptive cover as well, so that's not a rarity, it's just nice to have. And what I also like about her kit is that she has a true brave shift, so you can shift in, shift out, it doesn't really matter which form you're in, she retains her tankiness regardless. You have to start in brave shift to get the full defense stuff after turn 1, but compared to Snow, who is, I believe, locked to his brave shift, once you brave shift him and end the turn, this is pretty cool. Again, 135 imperils to fire and earth, plus the 85% breaks, then makes her stand out in the meta as a tank in general. But then again, missing emergency cooldowns, that is a huge downside of Aphmau. Please also keep in mind there is not a single need for physical tanks at the current state of trials and the game in general. Maybe she might be used for morale battles, but we don't have any information regarding that. We may get them at the official live stream tomorrow. We'll see about that. Nonetheless, Aphmau is a superb pull for newcomers, but less so for veterans. And yeah, the damage of hers is boosted significantly due to the STMR upgrade, but still irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. Alright, so should you pull? Aphmau is not a must pull, but she's a very good off-banner pull. I won't be unhappy or mad if I ever off-banner her. In fact, I'll be quite happy because her Trustmaster, Super Trustmaster and Vision card, they are all very good and I'd like to have them, all of them to be honest, but I'm fine with waiting because, yeah, physical tanks, right? If you're lacking a physical tank though, you probably should get her because you also won't be done with all the trials. Mainly probably you haven't done a Sure trial by now, because if you don't have a Neo Vision tank, or Neo Vision Awakened, Gladio also does the trick, but if you're missing a Neo Vision or Neo Vision Awakened tank, you probably haven't done the Assure trial yet, and Aphmau should easily tank that one as well. And that also explains the next part, new players, well, you should get her probably. And yeah, veterans like me, potentially skip unless you really want a Vision card, Trustmaster and Super Trustmaster. I skipped her personally because I can wait a few weeks or months until I just off-banner her. Alright, and that's pretty much all it for today. I'll be part in the unofficial live stream later today, so I hope you guys watch that too. It's going to be a very long night for me. I'll probably go to sleep at 5 AM or so. I don't know how I'm gonna stay awake for that long. We'll see about that. Thank you all for watching nonetheless. I hope this was helpful to you, and we'll see each other either in the unofficial live stream later today or on Sunday for my July prediction video. I hope you're looking forward to that. But until then, have a nice rest of the evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you're from. Bye bye.